And if you are a subscriber, welcome back. If not, thank you for giving my channel a chance. I'm the veteran. I wanted to continue on from my MEPS video, which I will reference later. The next chronologically sound one would be the second level of hell, which is basic training. I believe that there's enough story there that I probably will do it in more than one part, but we'll see how things go. It'll probably have to be at least two. Straight out of high school, I had instantly was taken into basic training because my junior year I had actually signed up to go to basic training because my mother was working 2 to 3 jobs at any given time. My fathers were not a whole lot of help. If nothing, they were abusive. So I ended up making sure that my mom didn't have the burden, the financial burden of trying to take care of me as an adult. So I joined the military, which at the time seemed the most viable option. When I was picked up by my recruiter on July 21st, 1992, which was my birthday, my mom was more than distraught and had mentioned the fact that we could find some financial way for me to go to college because I had mentioned the fact that I wanted to be a teacher at the time, which I knew really wasn't possible unless I got like grants and everything, and really my grades were not that strong. I had taken the ASVAB and making an incredibly bad decision. The night before, I had gone out and partied with my friends and really didn't do great on the ASVAB test. So the only viable career choice that I could make at the time was 11 Bravo, which is basically a grunt, an infantryman. I was a glorified meat shield. However, I was told by the recruiter that if I signed up for 4 years, there would be a 98% chance that I would be sent to Germany, where they have great big beer steins and everything, and everybody was always drunk and having a party, and it was great. And so I signed up for the 4 years, and he also told me that if I went 11 Bravo, that I would have a good amount of options once I finished basic training of career paths that I could take, which was also incorrect. However, I did have more than one MOS, which ended up being, a couple of them were really exciting, which I will tell you about later. With that said, the recruiter picked me up, took me basically to a motel that very same day that was beside the airport that we were to fly to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I would have my base, or where I would go to the MEP station first, and then I would have my basic training. So the next day we all got up, we got on the plane, and we flew to Fort Benning, Georgia's airport, and we got off the airport, and on the tarmac I passed out within 15 minutes because I went from a 75-degree weather pattern to 123 degrees on the blacktop where they were trying to hold a formation. So I didn't even make it to the formation before I had passed out. Once I was woken, then we went through the lovely process of in-processing at the Military Enlisted Processing Station, also abbreviated MEP station, which you can see if you click on this link. Once we went through that particular level of wonderful hellnish, we ended up getting on their most glorious mode of transportation called a cattle truck, which you can see here. So they actually brought us to the MEP station on a cattle truck. Once we were processed like so much meat, we actually were put on a cattle truck again. Only this cattle truck didn't have seats like the nice, luxurious ones that we actually arrived at the MEP station in. No, we had to stand up with an 80-pound rucksack on our back, a 40-pound duffel bag that we were carrying, along with our weapon and whatever other gear we had, the LBs and whatnot. So we ended up standing up in this wonderful cattle truck for about 35 minutes, where we were driven to our barracks where we would stay for the remaining of our basic training in AIT. Now, once the doors swung open, our drill sergeants, Drill Sergeant Brown and Drill Sergeant Fiatoa, who were to be our drill sergeants for that basic training period, called us out and lined us up in front of a giant, monstrous hill. Now, we were then told that we were going to be introduced to the fabled green monster of Georgia. Now, if you want to hear about that story and the green monster, then you can click on this link. Needless to say, after we met the green monster, we were all completely exhausted. Most of us could barely move. A lot of us were actually covered in vomit, me being one of them. So once we got done with the fabled green monster, we were then taken to what you would call a parade field, which was basically a giant cement slab that was underneath the barracks that we stayed at. Okay, now a barracks was designed to have the parade field under it where you hold all your formations. Then you have another 3 levels above that, each level being a barracks for a specific platoon. Ours was on the 2nd floor. Okay, so they get us all onto the parade field where we all lined up, and knowing my incredible luck, I ended up being basically in the middle of the front row, where the 2 drill sergeants were in front of us trying to get us all into some kind of sensible formation. So basically there was 4 rows of us. Each row of soldiers is basically a squad. Within that squad you have basically 2 to 3 soldiers in each squad, which were your teams. Okay. I was in the front line, and basically the drill sergeants at that point in time came out after we had like a water break, a 5-minute, what they call a water break. Okay, we learned that in basic training, when they said drink water, at that point in time, that was considered your rest period. You had the time to rest that equaled the same amount of time that it took everybody to get a cup of water and drink it, which, in a clusterfuck of your first formation, that's constituted about 5 minutes. And then everybody lined up in this formation, and once that was done, then you were standing basically at attention in front of your drill sergeant. And I was, like I said, I was in the middle of the front row. So Drill Sergeant Brown and Drill Sergeant Fiatoa, Drill Sergeant Brown being first and Drill Sergeant Fiatoa going right next to him to his left, basically was walking the line like you see in the movies, giving you shit until you pissed yourself, or came close to it at least. Because let me tell you what, Drill Sergeant Brown, he was like 5 foot tall, but he was as wide as he was tall, and it was all muscle. He was this gigantic pit bull looking black man that could just, like, when he looked at you, you swore you saw the devil laughing at you. And then beside to his left, see, Drill Sergeant Brown was an E5, a round brown. Basically, they wore these round brown hats. It was all brown. It looked like basically a forest ranger's hat, except the bill was completely round, which is why they were called round browns or drill sergeants. Either one would describe the guys that were in front of us. Now, Drill Sergeant Brown, like I said, was a 5 foot muscle-bound black man, and Drill Sergeant Fiatoa was pretty much just the opposite. He was this gigantically tall 6'2" Samoan motherfucker. The two together were absolutely terrifying. It was like being, in the 2nd level of hell, which was exactly where we were. So they were walking down the line and they were scaring the shit out of everybody. And then Drill Sergeant Brown would be the one insulting everybody and scaring the shit out of everybody. And then once Drill Sergeant Fiatoa got in front of you, he just laughed because you were terrified and pissing and shitting all over yourself, and he would just laugh and they would move on. So Drill Sergeant Brown comes up to me, and he says, "Private, are you tired?" Because I was covered in vomit. It's like, yeah, I'm fucking tired, but I'm not going to tell him that. I said, "No, Drill Sergeant, I'm not tired." And he says, "Private, look at me when I'm talking to you." So, he's short. I'm like 6 foot. So I looked down. I said, "Yes, Drill Sergeant, I will look you in the eye, Drill Sergeant." He says, "Private, are you looking down on me?" He says, I am your drill sergeant. Never look down on me. And so I looked back up, of course, and I said, no, drill sergeant, I will never look down on you again, drill sergeant. And he says, at this time, drill sergeant Fiatoa, he's already fucking laughing. So drill sergeant Brown says, Private, are you tired, Private? I says, no, drill sergeant, I am not tired, drill sergeant. And he says, Private, look at me when I'm talking to you. So instinctively, I look down. He says, Private, are you looking down on me again? He says, I cannot believe what you're doing. He says, just drop and pound sand until I say stop. So I hit the ground, and, I just met the green monster, and I'm exhausted and covered in vomit, so I'm trying to fucking do push-ups, and my privates are hitting the ground before my chest ever does. I can barely do it, and they fucking move on. And trust me when I tell you, he moved on to the rest of the platoon behind me and never told me to stop. And I'm doing so like on push-up number 5, I can barely freaking move. So I end up doing this half cockeyed, half up, half down on the ground, and I'm just trying to freaking hold myself up so that I don't get stepped on by the drill sergeant who's, could at any time look back. So he goes through the entire platoon, and he's dropping people at random just to fucking drop them. And he comes back to me and he says, Private, get at attention. So I pulled myself up. I think it took me about 45 minutes to actually get up standing at attention, because now my shoulders and chest were burnt, not only just my legs and my lower body. And I'm standing up and I'm looking ahead and I'm saying, yes, drill sergeant. And he says, Private, are you tired? And I says, no, drill sergeant, I am not tired. And he says, Private, look at me when I'm talking to you. So I scooched down like this, half cocking my knees, barely able to hold myself up, and I said, yes, drill sergeant, I will look you in the eye, drill sergeant. He busted out laughing so hard, he just fucking moved on. So after, they get everybody back up and standing at attention, and half of us are covered in vomit, the other half have already shit their pants from trying to do push-ups. They said, all right, we're going to take you to your bedroom. And they take us up this flight of stairs, which pretty much, 2 people, I think, didn't even make it. And we get inside our barracks, and they said, just line up in the front and drink water. It's like we're all fucking, just exhausted. We look and there's this water container there. We all get a glass of water, and we're like cluster-fucked into the front of the barracks. Now, inside the barracks, there's a wall in the middle dividing it into 2 sections. Now, you can go all the way around this middle wall in a square, or however you want to fucking do it, you can get around it. So there's 2 lines of bunks on one section of the wall, and then 2 lines of bunks on the other section, and each one, I believe, had 8 to 10 bunks paired in 2s. Now, there was a very specific reason for this. So after we all get our drink of water, we're all meandering in the front. He says, the drill sergeant Brown came in and said, just everybody get on the foot of a bunk. And so everybody just scrambles, running over each other, getting more vomit, spread all over the fucking nice floor that they had obviously polished. And each one of us gets along at the end of a bunk. Now, the way that it worked is no matter what you chose, the bunks, like I said, were in pairs. Okay, whoever was to your left or to your right, that was what they called your battle buddy. And you did not want to know where your battle buddy was. If you did not know where your battle buddy was, it was really, really fucking bad. Okay? More often than not, you just wanted to stay with your battle buddy and don't get separated. Because if a drill sergeant comes up and asks you, where is your battle buddy? You may answer correctly and know and be right where he is, but the mere fact that he had to ask you was motive enough for him to just drop you for push-ups. And if your battle buddy wasn't with you and you got dropped for push-ups, you were doing push-ups until your battle buddy showed up. So A, if you didn't know where he was, or he didn't know that you needed him at your side, or were only left and was going to come back and didn't come back, you were doing push-ups forever. Like forever. Let me tell you what, I always knew where my battle buddy was, and he was never to leave my side more than fucking 10 minutes, because that's pretty much all the push-ups I could do. So we were always together. So we were all lined up on the end of these bunks, and he says, all right, these are your bunks, and he described the battle buddy, and those are your battle buddies. Now hit the shower. So you went and hit the shower. So you had maybe 30 minutes for everybody to take a shower, and then you went back to your bunks and you had rack time. Now the way that rack time worked is that just in case, for some miracle reason, the United States was invaded and they came to Georgia, to your specific barracks, and wanted to come up and kill everybody in your barracks, there had to be 2 guards on duty at all times to protect that thing. So I don't know what invading army would want to come to Fort Benning, Georgia for any reason to invade the United States, but just in case that happens, we had 2 guards, and each guard pulled a shift of 3 hours every night, and then it would go down basically the lines of the bunks. So the first 2 guards were the first 2 bunks, which happened to be me and my battle buddy. My battle buddy was first, I was number 2. Okay, so we would get the first shift, which was 3 hours, and basically you got 3, 6, was it 9, basically 9 hours, so there would be 3 shifts. Okay, so the first 3 sets of bunks would do that night shifts on guard duty, and then it would move on down the line, and it would keep going around until all of basic training and all of AIT was done, because basically we stayed in the same barracks for both things. So we had the same drill sergeants, the same misery, so at least, you know, it was the misery and the hell was consistent. So basically you had your 2 guards that would switch out for the night, and you had 1 buffer guy, and that's the way the night shift works. So the guards would rotate their shifts for 3 shifts, basically. And the buffer guy, he would, at the beginning of those shifts, would buff the floor so that it was nice and shiny. So he would sweep, mop, buff the floor. And once he was done, he could hit the rack. Okay, so basically there was 3 guys up for at least the beginning of the night, and then the 2 guards for the rest of the night. So on the first night, we all took a shower. We all hit the racks. Luckily, for me and my battle buddy, we had the first shift, which was always good because you wanted to just get it out of the way and enjoy the rest of the night until the drill sergeants came in and made fucking life absolutely miserable again. So we got the first 2 shifts. After our first 2 shifts, basically the buffer guy, because he really didn't know what he was fucking doing because it was the first night, basically he thought he got it done really quick and he hit the rack. Okay, so we woke up the next shift and they replaced us, and me and my battle buddy, we hit the rack. Now, for whatever reason, somewhere between that moment in time and the moment that the drill sergeant brought us back into reality, so viciously, let's say, somewhere in between that period of time, the guard, both guards fell asleep. So normally the way it works is like, well, at least the way me and my battle buddy did it. Okay, one guy would sit down in the chair, polishing the chair with his ass, and the other guy would take his weapon and he would do 3 to 4 rotations around the entire bunk, making sure everything was secure, and then you switch out. That way nobody ever falls asleep. But apparently both guards thought it would be I would suspect, thought it would be a great idea if they both sat down and just pulled the guard duty. So they ended up nodding off, falling asleep, and then we the next morning paid the price. And if you want to hear that story, you can please like and subscribe now, and you will get a notification on my next video, which I will take up part 2. And I thank you for all your support. Like I said, if you found this story entertaining or useful in any way or gathered any kind of information for it, please leave a like. And if you are not a subscriber already, please support my channel and subscribe. Everybody, you have a great evening.